Practicing can be stressful, but also not finding enough time to practice can even be more stressful. In today's video, I'm going to be helping you take control over your practice. This video is for someone who has a very busy life in the house, who is an adult who has a full-time job, but yet wants to maintain violin practice. If you're that candidate, then this video is for you. Let's talk about some roadblocks that I see with adult violinists. I hear time and time again where adult students come into my studio playing violin for the first time, and they're like, well, I wanted to play violin growing up, but my family didn't have enough money to pay for lessons. Now I do have enough money to pay for lessons, but now I don't have enough time. So how can I balance the two, Eric? This is what I suggest to them. Everyone has a different rhythm in their life, and everybody has a different rhythm in their daily routine. So that it's important for you to have implemented that rhythm into your routine, the practice rhythm. So you want to set a time that is consistent every single day or every other day to be able to touch your instrument. My expectations for adult students are much different than they are for students who are 3-4 years old studying Suzuki for the first time. The brain works so different. And in my experience with pedagogy versus andragogy, andragogy is the ability to teach adults versus pedagogy, which is the ability to teach students, young students, and kids specifically. I just tell my adult students that we're in it for the experience of playing an instrument. We are doing it to have joy in our lives. We're doing it because it's a hobby. We're not doing it because we're trying to win a concertmaster position in a symphony orchestra. Those are not the goals that I see when it comes to adult learners. I have an 80-year-old viola student who is like, I want to be able to play my instrument so that way I can inspire my grandkids. Now, how cool is that? So everyone has a different goal, and everybody needs to have their why. When you have your why, your goals change. You won't feel guilty for not being able to touch your violin every single day. But when you do, it's always a joy and a gift that you're able to do in that moment. So those are some like introductory tips that I want to recommend to you. Make sure that you have a why. Like, why are you playing the violin? Are you doing it as a stress relief? Are you doing it as a way for you to connect with other family members? Are you doing it so that you can kind of connect with your peers and maybe play in a group? Every person's goals are different. So you want to make sure those are very clear, because I've seen adult students who have very busy lives that are like, oh wait, playing the violin is actually a lot harder than I thought. I thought I could just pick it up like a guitar and just play. Now, no offense to guitar. Guitar is very difficult in its own way. But playing the violin, you're standing up, you're putting a violin or viola for that matter on your shoulder. It's very uncomfortable at first, so it does take time. There is a bit of a learning curve. But once you go past that learning curve, it becomes more enjoyable. Now, we still have to teach as teachers the lesson of delayed gratification. You're at the point in your life, if you're watching this video, if you're an adult, where you know exactly how you learn. You're probably very successful in your company or in your business. You're probably at the top of the food chain in your company, and all of a sudden you play your violin, you're like, oh my gosh, I know nothing. It's a very humbling experience when I have adult students come in and they're like, I'm like an IT lawyer and I'm trying to pick up violin just for fun. It's always my job to continue encouraging the adult students to do the best they can with whatever they have at their disposal and whatever time they have left in their days. A lot of you may have kids that are either going off to college, or they're at school and you want something to use your time. Now, if you are a homemaker, for instance, and you have extra time, you could easily use some of that time during the day when your kids are at school to play your violin, practice your violin, maybe 20-30 minutes a day. That's all you need to start out. Then once your repertoire gets more advanced, then of course you may want to dedicate a little bit more time throughout the day. Now, if you're not at home during the day and when your kids are at school, then you have other limited options. You have work, then you have to pick up your kids, and then you have to go to all sorts of different after school activities like extracurriculars, and then it becomes 8 or 9 o'clock and you're like, well, now my entire day is done. I am exhausted. Believe me, I've been there. I'm a father as well. I have a I have a young boy who's running around in his diapers. And even sometimes I have a concert coming up and I'm like, how am I going to practice this? In the midst of all this chaos, you want to have at least a moment with your violin where you don't have to think, even if it's 10 minutes to do a scale. 10 minutes in the scale is better than nothing. And you just want to take advantage of whatever slither of time you have. If you're really dedicated, then talk to your spouse. If you have a spouse who is willing to take the kids out to the park while you have your youth time just to practice, that's another stress relief where you don't have to worry about the kids for a moment and you can kind of do your own thing. That's another great tip that I'm starting to realize, where if I'm practicing, I have my spouse, my wife, just, take care of our son for just like maybe 20 or 30 minutes for me to just try to nail this passage. And, I have the extreme privilege of having violin as my profession. So whenever a student cancels, then I'm able to practice within the time that I have during the day in the afternoons. But not everybody has that luxury, I understand. So if there are moments like on the weekend, or there are moments throughout the week where you can touch your violin, I would really try to set like, this is the day where I'm actually going to play my violin for 10 to 20 minutes. Start out small. That is my next tip. You don't have to start out with 30 minutes a day every single day, because then you get burnt out. You want to just set a tiny goal, a little baby step goal for you to continue building on top of that. I have a student who is an adult student who started out in Suzuki Book 1 with Twinkle Twinkle Little Star, but he understood that it requires a little bit of patience to be able to get to where he is now. Like, he's now playing and sight reading beautifully now. So those would be my piece of advice for any adult who is struggling to find practice time and just trying to create a system for yourself. Every person's life is different. Every person's rhythm is different. Every person's schedule is different. So try to find a slither of time that you can dedicate yourself for, not just to make violin playing a burden, but to make it a joy in your everyday routine. If you have other questions regarding violin practice routines, I encourage you to drop a line down in the comment section below. So that way we can get this conversation going. We can all together come up with different solutions. I kind of like to use the comment section as kind of like a little, almost like a Reddit board in a way, where you can kind of comment and kind of exchange ideas. I think that's what brings the community together. And I really appreciate you taking the time to watch this video. There are a lot of violin teachers out there, and I really appreciate you taking the time to watch my video. If you like this video, share it with someone who's also a fellow violin player, and leave a comment, like, and subscribe. And if you need other violin tips for the day, I'm going to leave videos over here and over here for you to take a look at.